Got fired on my honeymoon by my boss's daughter. 6 hours later, the founder called me 47 times begging for answers after finding out what I knew. I just smiled and said, "Perfectly fine. Enjoy your vacation." I was standing barefoot on the balcony of our Las Vegas honeymoon suite, staring at the strip glowing like it was mocking me, when the message hit my phone. 5 blunt words that cracked something inside me. Effective immediately, you're terminated. Lydia, my CEO's daughter, the woman who'd spent the last 8 weeks circling me like a shark that smelled blood. My stomach flipped. It was day 2 of my honeymoon. Day 2. And this girl, this privileged, polished MBA princess, fired me from the company I had practically rebuilt from the inside out. My husband, Noah, looked up from his room service pancakes, his brow creasing. "You're getting that look," he said, half joking. "What happened?" I told him it was nothing. I lied so smoothly it scared me, because if I said it out loud, my entire career just went up in flames, I think I would have screamed. I turned back toward the window, my phone buzzing again, and again like it was trying to claw its way out of my hand. I didn't look. I just gripped the railing until my knuckles went white and closed my eyes. I'd spent years holding that company together. Not through flashy leadership philosophies or rigid corporate playbooks, but through something far more invisible and far more powerful: human pattern reading. The emotional fault lines no one else ever noticed. The micro-tensions right before a project exploded. The half-said comments that meant danger. And now Lydia had decided she didn't need me. What she didn't know was that the second I stopped holding everything together, the whole damn operation would start collapsing faster than she could blink. But before the fall, before the chaos, before I would eventually uncover the truth behind her little power move, something darker, more calculating than I ever imagined. There was a moment. A moment right here on this balcony where I actually whispered to myself, "Is this what freedom feels like?" Because honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back. Not after the last 2 months. Not after watching Lydia strut in with her icy smile and overpriced heels, dismiss everything I'd built as soft management, and undermine me at every turn. I'd felt something in her gaze from day one, a strange, sharp kind of recognition. Like she saw me as a threat before she even knew why, and now she'd fired me while I was literally on my honeymoon. Another message buzzed through, then another. Then my phone rang, an unknown number. I ignored it. But then the hotel room phone rang. Noah gave me a look. "Maybe you should answer." I didn't, couldn't, wouldn't. Instead, I walked straight to the bathroom, shut the door, and finally checked my screen. 46 missed calls, then 1 voicemail. From Miranda Hayes, the founder, Lydia's mother, my former mentor. My heart hammered as I pressed play. Her voice came through fractured like she'd been crying. "Riley, please, call me, it's urgent. Something's happening here." Something's wrong. A chill spidered down my back, because what Miranda didn't know, and what Lydia had never understood, was that my work wasn't soft. It wasn't fluffy. It wasn't optional. It was the only thing preventing the entire company from tearing itself apart. And I had stopped doing it the moment Lydia began her quiet war against me. I stepped out of the bathroom, numb, my pulse thudding in my ears. Noah looked up at me, reading my face instantly. "What happened?" I opened my mouth to answer, and then my phone lit up with a new message. Not from Miranda, not from a colleague, from someone I never expected to hear from again. And the moment I saw the name, my stomach turned to ice. I wasn't just fired. I was targeted. Most people assume the moment of betrayal is what breaks you. But for me, the real fracture started 2 months before the honeymoon, long before Lydia ever hit send on that termination text. Back then, things at Hartwell Dynamics still felt stable. I'd been there nearly 4 years, long enough for people to trust me with the things they wouldn't dare say out loud in meetings. I wasn't some high-ranking executive. My title was boring, senior project strategist, but everyone knew what I really did. I kept the place from burning down, not through policies, not through spreadsheets, but through noticing the cracks no one else saw, patterns in tone, micro-reactions, the way someone's fingers tapped when they were about to lose control. I could feel tension in a room like a change in air pressure. I didn't learn it in business school. God knows I could barely survive community college. I learned it growing up with a mother whose moods shifted like weather fronts. Reading people wasn't a skill, it was survival. It turned out to be damn useful in corporate America. And Miranda, Our founder saw that instantly. She was in her late 50s, sharp as hell, and carried herself like someone who had clawed her way through every barrier the world had thrown at her. The kind of woman who didn't just build a company, she built a legacy. She used to call my instincts the invisible engine. "You keep everything running without anyone knowing how," she'd say. "That's real power, Riley." She championed me. She gave me space to build out my methods. And for a while, people treated me like the quiet backbone of the company. Then Lydia showed up. If Miranda was a storm, Lydia was a scalpel. Cold, precise, surgically confident. She walked in wearing tailored suits and an expression that said she already knew more than everyone else. She was 31, with Wharton credentials and a CEO-in-waiting aura that wrapped around her like armor. The first time she shook my hand, she gave me this tiny smile, tight, polite, dismissive. Like she'd already decided exactly where I ranked in her mental hierarchy. And it wasn't high. She didn't yell. She didn't insult me. She was worse, she was subtle, slipping her opinions in board meetings, reframing my work as soft skills, calling my methods unmeasurable, suggesting we adopt real management frameworks, ones she'd studied, ones she'd controlled. I felt myself shrinking in rooms I used to command. Then the microaggressions turned into micro-takeovers. She removed my name from documents, reassigned people who relied on me, quietly absorbed credit for my systems. And every time I pushed back, she smiled like she was humoring a child. The worst part? Miranda didn't see it. Or maybe she didn't want to. It was her daughter, her legacy. Lydia could do no wrong, not publicly anyway. Then came the turning point. 2 weeks before my wedding, Lydia held a leadership restructuring meeting. I wasn't invited, but people told me what happened. She announced she was modernizing the project management approach, meaning eliminating mine entirely. Her new system, rigid metrics, aggressive timelines, standardized communication protocols. Everything I'd spent years preventing, she invited it right in. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by half-packed bridal decorations, realizing something heavy. She wanted me gone, not just disagreed with, not just replaced. Gone, so I made a choice, not revenge, not sabotage. I simply stopped doing the invisible things that held the company upright. No more quiet interventions. No more smoothing over tensions before they exploded. No more reading the emotional fault lines. If Lydia wanted a world without soft skills, she would get it unfiltered. And by the time Noah and I boarded that honeymoon flight, the first fractures were already showing back home. I just didn't know how deep they went, or how far Lydia was willing to go. The first sign that things at Hartwell Dynamics were cracking came 24 hours before the honeymoon firing. I didn't know it then, of course. I was too busy tying up loose ends before the wedding, trying not to think about the Cold War Lydia had been waging. But looking back, the signs were all there. The night before our flight to Vegas, my coworker Jonah texted me. "You around? Something weird's going on." Jonah was the calm one, the stabilizer. If he was using the word weird, something was off. I called him immediately. He answered whispering like he was hiding in a supply closet. "Riley, the McCormick account is melting down. We're 2 seconds from losing them." I blinked. "Why, that project was solid." "Yeah, when you were here," he shot back. But Lydia changed the communication structure. She cut half the client contact points because she said they were inefficient. I could practically see him rolling his eyes. She always confused efficient with inhuman. "What happened?" I asked. They felt blindsided. Said we were disrespecting their workflow. They escalated immediately. It's a mess. Normally, I would have jumped in, drafted the client messaging, coached the team, stabilized the situation. But this time, something in me hardened. "This isn't your fight," Noah said from the couch, and he was right. "Jonah," I said quietly, "I can't get involved. I'm not supposed to be online right now." There was a long silence. "Riley, they need you. We need you." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry," he exhaled, defeated. "Okay, go enjoy your wedding, just pray nothing else blows up." But things did blow up. Fast. By the time Noah and I landed in Vegas, I had 15 missed calls from the office. I ignored all of them. I'd promised myself I wouldn't rescue Lydia from her own arrogance. And for the first time in years, I felt a sliver of peace. Freedom. Like I could breathe without carrying everyone else's emotions on my back. That peace lasted exactly 8 hours. Because while I slept next to my new husband, the Roseview team collapsed in spectacular fashion. A junior analyst had flagged a serious oversight in the launch plan. Under my system, that would have triggered a quiet intervention. A calm review, a reset of the team dynamic. Under Lydia's, he got ignored, then scolded. Then he stopped talking altogether. The oversight grew. The tension grew. The client got wind of it. Then the entire project derailed. By morning, a second major account was slipping away. I found all this out later, after the firing text, after Miranda's frantic voicemail, when I finally logged into my work email out of morbid curiosity. I sat cross-legged at the edge of the hotel bed, while Noah shaved in the bathroom, scrolling through a digital train wreck. Subject lines in all caps, meeting summaries full of panic project leads, snapping at each other clients, escalating to the board. People rage-writing at midnight. It was chaos. Pure, unfiltered chaos. And woven through all the messages, one glaring pattern: everything that used to be smooth was breaking. Everything that used to be predictable was spiraling. Everything I used to quietly stabilize had detonated. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, a sick mix of dread and satisfaction curling in my stomach. This wasn't just Lydia underestimating me. This was the company discovering, in real time, what happened in a world without the invisible engine. But something else was happening too. Something far more dangerous. Something I didn't see until later. Because buried in that inbox, between the frantic updates and client warnings, was a message I hadn't opened yet. A message that didn't come from the company. A message that wasn't supposed to land in my inbox at all. And when I finally clicked it, everything I thought I knew about why Lydia wanted me gone would flip on its head. The email landed in my inbox at 3:12 am. Vegas time, hours before Lydia fired me. But I didn't notice it until later, when my hands were shaking so badly, I had to sit down on the edge of the hotel bed just to open it. The sender wasn't Hartwell Dynamics. It wasn't a client. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Subject: urgent, your work is being compromised. The body was short. Too short, almost clinical. Riley, you don't know me, but I know what you do for Hartwell. You need to understand something immediately. Your internal reports and methodologies have been accessed, copied, and transferred into an external system. This wasn't a breach. It was intentional, and it wasn't done by who you think. You need to protect yourself. Do not contact anyone at the company directly. I'll reach out again. No name, no signature, not even a job title, just a single attachment. A file I didn't remember creating. My stomach dropped. I clicked it. A spreadsheet opened, clean, color-coded, and horrifying. It listed every single part of my internal framework. Emotional pattern recognition, notes, project stress maps, escalation predictors, human risk profiles, conflict intervention timelines, team volatility indicators, everything. My entire method. Except the last column. That column wasn't mine. It was labeled. Replication potential, external use. Next to each method was a percentage. 94% replicable, 88% replicable, 72% replicable. Someone had been analyzing how to extract my entire system. Export it, mimic it, sell it, not to Hartwell, to another company. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might pass out. I scrolled down to the bottom, dreading what I already sensed would be there. The name of the export destination. It wasn't anonymous. It wasn't vague. It was spelled out clearly, brutally. Lydia Hartwell, personal drive folder. Succession planning / phase 2. I swear the room tilted. My first thought was denial. No way. No way she'd go this far. But then the truth hit with cold clarity. Lydia wasn't just pushing me out. She was stealing my work. My intellectual backbone. The thing that kept Hartwell Dynamics functional. And she was preparing to use it somewhere else. But where and why? I dug deeper. Opened subfolders, screenshots, draft documents. A note pinned to one file made my skin crawl. Once Riley is removed, integration of the extracted methodology into the new structure should be seamless. Removed, not transitioned, not restructured, removed. I felt sick. Then I found the final document. A draft proposal addressed not to Hartwell Dynamics, but to Bexton and Gray Innovations, a corporate giant known for swallowing entire companies and repackaging their best people like disposable parts. A company Lydia had once interned for. A company always hunting fresh intellectual property. A company with enough money and influence to buy out anything or anyone they wanted. Suddenly, the firing made sense. This wasn't about disagreeing with my soft approach. This wasn't about control or ego or wanting to modernize. This was something colder, sharper, premeditated. Lydia wanted me erased so she could sell my methodology as her own. A golden ticket into a higher executive role. A legacy that wasn't hers to claim. I dropped the phone, hands shaking, adrenaline flooding my veins. She wasn't incompetent. She wasn't clueless. She was a thief, a strategist, a predator wearing designer shoes. And she'd made one fatal mistake. She believed firing me on my honeymoon would make me disappear quietly. She had no idea she'd just created the one version of me she should have feared the most. The version with nothing left to lose. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I sat in the dark Vegas suite, the neon glow washing over the carpet while Noah slept peacefully beside me, completely unaware that his wife was quietly unraveling and sharpening. Because once I knew Lydia hadn't just fired me but stolen the core of my work, the invisible calm that had held me together all these years snapped clean in half. But I didn't break. I shifted. Something colder came forward. Something precise. Something Lydia should have prayed never woke up. I spent 3 hours reading every stolen document again and again until the pattern behind her plan became nauseatingly clear. Undermine my credibility. Phase out my systems. Create chaos so the company seemed unstable without better leadership. Fire me quietly. Export my methodology to Bexton and Gray. Present herself as the visionary who could implant it in their corporate structure. Walk into a higher executive role with my life's work in her briefcase. Clean, efficient, surgical, and she thought I'd never find out. I stared out the window as the Vegas nightlife dimmed into early morning silence, thinking through every possible reaction. Confront her. Too emotional, she'd deny everything. Go to Miranda. Risky. She loved her daughter too blindly. She might protect her. Go to the board. They'd bury it to avoid scandal. Go public. No impact. No one knew the value of what I built except the people inside those walls. So if traditional routes wouldn't work, I'd have to hit her where it actually hurt. Her ambitions. Her future seat at Bexton and Gray. Her reputation as the visionary she was trying to fabricate. She wanted to rise using my spine. Fine. I'd remove the spine entirely. I made 3 lists on the hotel notepad. List 1, what Lydia thinks she has: my methodology, my data, my algorithms, my emotional mapping system, my escalation model, my human pattern predictor, the internal reports, the client frameworks, access to my team's workflows. She believed that stealing my files meant stealing my value. Cute. List 2, what Lydia doesn't know: my system only works because I do. It's not software. It's pattern-based instinct. Half the indicators she copied are deliberately mislabeled to protect my intellectual property. The emotional maps only function when interpreted by someone who understands micro-pattern shifts. The stress triggers document she exported was the outdated version I replaced months ago. None of the predictive patterns work without the context stored in my private notebooks. And every team member she thinks she can manage, they trust me, not her. She stole the skeleton, not the soul. List 3. What I can do, and this is where the cold version of me, the version Lydia truly miscalculated, took over. 1, track every instance of stolen data and build a timeline. Proof. Unshakable. 2. Quietly contact someone inside Bexton and Gray. Not to expose Lydia, yet, but to confirm their interest. 3. Freeze the value of everything she took by creating a new version of my system, one she doesn't have access to. 4. Strengthen alliances inside Hartwell Dynamics while I'm gone. If the company wants stability again, they'll look to me privately. 5. Let the chaos she created continue, just enough. Not to hurt innocent employees, never that, but enough for decision-makers to feel the absence she refused to acknowledge. 6. And the final step, expose her theft at the exact moment it would cost her the most. Not when she fired me. Not during the company chaos. Not even when she tried to pitch my work as her own. No, the perfect moment would be when Bexton and Gray were about to offer her the job she was trying to steal her way into. Rip the floor out from under her feet exactly as she reached for the podium. Revenge wasn't yelling. Revenge wasn't confronting her in a hallway. Revenge was timing. And I was done letting Lydia control the clock. As the sun rose over the strip, I stood from the desk, folded the 3 lists, and tucked them into my travel journal. I had my plan. My retaliation wouldn't be loud, wouldn't be crude, wouldn't be messy, it would be surgical. Just like her betrayal. I thought the worst thing Lydia had done was steal my work and fire me on my honeymoon. I was wrong. Because 2 days after I started mapping out my retaliation, something happened that forced me to question everything I thought I understood about her motives. Something that shifted the entire landscape beneath my feet. It started with an email, not from Hartwell, not from Bexton and Gray, not from the anonymous sender. It came from Noah. Except he was in the same hotel room as me, sleeping, his phone on the nightstand. The subject line was strange. "We need to talk, urgent." I frowned and opened it. "Riley, I'm sorry you're finding out like this. I hope you'll understand once you read everything. Check the attached document." And my blood ran cold. The attachment was a PDF titled, Employee Assessment Hartwell Dynamics. My hand shook as I tapped it open. It was a performance report for me, but not the kind HR creates. This one was written in a precise, detached tone that made my skin crawl. I skimmed the first lines. Subject, Riley Mercer Value Rating, High Risk Rating, Severe Summary. While subject's methodology is effective, their influence over key personnel poses a threat to organizational control. Their ability to predict emotional responses grants them disproportionate influence over project outcomes. Recommendation: immediate termination once extraction of intellectual assets is complete. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. This wasn't written by Lydia. This wasn't written by anyone at Hartwell. At the bottom, in crisp digital black and white, was the signature. Noah Mercer, External Strategy Consultant, Bexton and Gray Innovations, my husband. My new husband. The man I had married 72 hours earlier. I felt the floor tilt. My vision blurred at the edges. The room went silent, except for the distant hum of the AC. Noah had been consulting for Bexton and Gray. He'd been evaluating me. For months. I forced myself to keep reading. Subject is unaware they are being assessed. Proximity remains strong due to personal relationship. Personal relationship. God. They had Bexton's logo on the header. My chest felt like it was collapsing inward. At the very end was a timestamp. 3 weeks before the wedding. Which meant while we were picking floral arrangements, tasting cake samples, laughing over rehearsal dinner plans, he was documenting me, studying me, feeding information to the corporation planning to cannibalize my career. I set the phone down carefully, like it was a live wire. I wasn't even sure if I was breathing. Noah shifted in the bed beside me and murmured my name in his sleep, completely unaware that the marriage he had just entered had detonated before dawn. My thoughts raced. Why would he do this? Was the marriage real to him? Was this entire relationship just part of the job? Then the worst possibility hit me. Was Noah the one who accessed my files in the first place? The anonymous email. The warning? The stolen data trail. None of it pointed to one enemy anymore. There were two. And suddenly the retaliation plan I'd crafted was dangerously incomplete, because I was targeting Lydia when someone much closer had been quietly cutting me open the whole time. A fresh wave of nausea hit me. I had to decide, right now, whether to pretend I didn't know until I understood the full truth, or confront him and risk losing my only chance to expose both of them. I stared at Noah sleeping beside me, my pulse roaring in my ears. He had no idea I knew, and for the first time in my life I felt something colder than anger. Strategy. There's a specific kind of silence that happens right before your entire worldview shatters. I sat there in that hotel suite, watching Noah breathe evenly in his sleep, and felt that silence press against my skull like a vice. All I could think was, why? Why would the man who held my hand while I cried over lost sleep steal pieces of my life and sell them? Why would the man who vowed to love me, protect me, choose me, turn around and dissect me like a lab subject? I needed answers, real ones, so I pretended nothing was wrong. I slid back into bed slowly, like my bones weren't made of glass. Noah wrapped an arm around my waist, warm and familiar, completely unaware that the woman in his arms was planning his professional and emotional execution. By morning I had a plan. Let him talk. Let him reveal himself. Let the truth spill out of him naturally. And it did, more easily than I expected. We went to breakfast at a quiet cafe off the strip. He seemed nervous, too cheerful, too attentive, like he was trying to perform husband with an edge of desperation. Perfect. Halfway through his omelet, I leaned in, feigning hesitation. "I've been thinking about work," I said softly. His fork froze midair, hook set. "I know they fired me," I continued, "and honestly, maybe it's for the best. I'm not sure I belonged there anymore." He relaxed visibly, the tension melting from his shoulders. "I think you're right," he said, a little too quickly. "You deserve better." And then he added something that snapped the last thread of naive hope inside me. "Plus, you have your methodology. You can take it anywhere. Anywhere." Like maybe to the corporation he was feeding intel to, I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. "You think so?" "Oh yeah," he said, suddenly confident. "There are companies out there that would kill to have what you created." Like Bexton and Gray. I forced myself to smile. "Funny," I said, swirling my coffee. "I've heard that company is aggressive." His eyes flicked up too fast. He tried to mask the reaction, but I saw it, a flash of panic, guilt, recognition. And then he said it. "They get misunderstood. They're not trying to hurt anyone, they just identify leverage points." "Leverage," I said quietly. He nodded, leaning forward as if sharing a secret. "You don't realize it, but your instincts, they're almost exploitable. Not in a bad way," he added quickly, "just valuable, highly valuable." I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. That was it, the truth. The horrifying reason. Noah never loved me for my laugh or my kindness or the way I traced circles on his wrist when he was stressed. He loved me for my usefulness, for my insight, for the thing Lydia was trying to steal. He married me because I was an asset, because Bexton wanted someone close to me, someone who could observe how my mind worked under pressure, someone who could detail the parts that couldn't be captured in a spreadsheet. And the worst part, he never thought of it as betrayal. He thought of it as strategy. He kept talking, unaware his words were blades slicing through the last of my illusions. "You just see people in a way the rest of us don't," he said. "That kind of thing can't stay locked inside a single company. It should be shared, scaled, and if the right organization is involved, everyone benefits." "Everyone except me." "Is that why you took the consulting job?" I asked quietly. His breath caught, and in that frozen microsecond, before he tried to cover it, I saw everything. He married me because Bexton needed access, because he was the perfect mole, because he could gather details no corporate audit ever could. He wasn't my protector, he wasn't my partner, he was the spy assigned to dismantle me. And at that moment, I realized something far darker. Lydia hadn't been the real architect of my downfall. She was just a pawn. The real villain, the one who orchestrated the whole thing, was sitting across from me, sipping coffee, thinking I'd never discover the truth. A man who didn't betray me out of greed, but out of calculation. Cold, strategic, unapologetic. That was the moment I stopped being heartbroken and started being dangerous. The moment I understood Noah had never loved me, only assessed me, I stopped grieving and started building the trap he never saw coming. Revenge wasn't a scream. It wasn't a confrontation. It was quiet, surgical, precise, the same way they had tried to dismantle me. And I had one advantage neither Lydia nor Noah ever accounted for. I knew how people behaved under pressure. They didn't. When we flew home from the honeymoon, I played the part of the exhausted newlywed. Soft voice, forced smile, touching his hand like I didn't feel sick every time he said my name. He believed it. He believed everything I let slip, including the lie I dropped casually over a glass of wine on our first night back. I think I might start documenting my system from scratch, a cleaner version. Something no one's ever seen. Noah tried to hide it, but the spark in his eyes gave him away. He took the bait. I didn't write a new system. I wrote a trap. A beautiful, polished, comprehensive document outlining a methodology that looked brilliant, except for one detail. Every single process line contained a flaw. A hidden self-destruct, a misdirection that would implode any team that tried to use it, not enough to look fake, just enough to collapse slowly and publicly. No one but me could see the faults. It was my Trojan horse. And Noah, loyal foot soldier for Bexton and Gray, delivered it straight into their hands. Phase 2, Lydia. I leaked just enough truth to Miranda, tiny, calculated pieces. Lydia ignored warnings on client volatility. Lydia changed systems she didn't understand. Lydia removed emotional safeguards. She couldn't see. Lydia fired me without protocol. I didn't mention the theft. Not yet. All I did was ask Miranda to look into the chaos. Plant seeds of doubt. Seeds flourish under panic. And panic was exactly what Lydia was swimming in. Then I waited, and the collapse began exactly on schedule. Bexton and Gray implemented the fake methodology. Within 2 weeks, their top client paused a multi-million-dollar initiative. 2 directors had public meltdowns, internal communication, broke down deadlines, slipped, investors demanded explanations, and who was responsible for bringing them the system? Lydia Hartwell. Her big pitch became a corporate catastrophe. The board of Bexton branded her as incompetent, unreliable, a risk. The position she was promised, gone. And because the methodology came from her, Noah went down with her. Corporate cannibals always eat their own when things go bad. I watched it unfold through leaked internal memos forwarded by an ally I hadn't expected. The anonymous sender, who revealed himself after the collapse. His name was Cole, senior risk analyst at Bexton. "I sent the first warning because I knew they were targeting you," he said. "And now you've effectively taken down their entire initiative. Consider us even." Phase 3, the final strike. When the dust settled, I scheduled a private meeting with Miranda. I walked into her office, placed the real documentation of my system on her desk, and said, "Your daughter tried to sell this. She didn't know it only works in the hands of the person who built it." Then I slid the proof across the table: timestamps, export logs, Noah's assessment report, Lydia's involvement. It felt like setting down a loaded weapon. Miranda read every word. Her face didn't move, but her eyes changed, hardened into something lethal. She didn't yell, didn't sigh. She simply said, "Thank you for bringing this to me first. You've saved the company. Then, what do you want in return?" I didn't want Lydia fired, or Noah exposed, or anyone dragged into public scandal. I wanted something better. "I want independence," I said. "No more being an invisible engine. I want my own consulting division, autonomous. My name on it, my rules, my ownership." Miranda granted it without hesitation. By the end of the week, I was the founder of Mercer Strategies, partnered with Hartwell Dynamics but fully independent. Noah moved out. Lydia disappeared from corporate circles, her reputation quietly demolished. I didn't need to ruin their lives loudly. Life did that for me. The day my nameplate was installed on my new office door, I ran my fingers across the letters and felt the last of the bitterness dissolve. Revenge didn't feel triumphant. It felt clean, necessary, like realigning a bone that had been broken for too long. When I walked out of the building that night, I sent Lydia and Noah the same 5-word message they once weaponized against me. "Effective immediately, you're terminated." Except this time, it wasn't fear they felt. It was understanding. I had been the storm they never saw coming.